Good evening. My name is Peggy Kell, and I'm going to be the moderator for this night's candidate forum. This candidate forum is for the Westchester Village President municipal race. There are two candidates running for one position in this race, Greg Riebel and Gia Marie Benline. This forum is sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Proviso Township in partnership with the Westchester Library as our Zoom host. And we really do thank the library. Our libraries have been so valuable with our candidate forums. I cannot say enough about them. It's also in partnership with Proviso Votes, a coalition of nonpartisan groups furthering voter education. The League is a nonpartisan organization. We do not endorse candidates. We strive to educate voters so that they can make informed decisions, either voting on issues or voting for candidates. Diane Scott from the LaGrange League will be our timekeeper tonight. Ryan Flores from the Westchester Library is our Zoom host and technical genius. Denise Pikes from the LWV Proviso Township is the other host, but she will not be speaking on the recording. So we're going to have 2 minutes for opening statements, 2 minutes for answering questions, and 1 minute for closing statements. We should go about an hour, maybe a little less, maybe a little bit more, depending on the flow here. So we are going to start with Gia. You're going to start with your opening statement.
Hello, and thank you for this opportunity. My name is Gia Marie Benline, and I am running for Westchester Village President. I currently serve on the board as a trustee. I am a wife and a mother. I am a licensed realtor, and I am also a paralegal of over 18 years. I am a proud honor flag volunteer, and I also serve on the board of directors for the Berwyn Development Corporation. Westchester is in need of urgent change. I am running because we suffer from a lack of leadership and a lack of community engagement. As village president, I plan to bring back fiscal responsibility. I plan to evaluate our costs and our revenues. I plan to eliminate wasteful spending of taxpayer dollars. And I plan to analyze our budget to recognize wants versus needs. I plan to actively engage with our community by hosting regular town halls and creating an open door policy for our residents. I've been campaigning for months and going door to door. I've also understand that some residents don't even know who our current village president is. That is a lack of community engagement. As a village president, I will ensure residents will know me by face, will know me by name, and most importantly, I'm a phone call away for them. I plan to revitalize our economic development by creating a business-friendly environment. I will prioritize and continue to support our local businesses. Westchester is a gem that needs to be polished, and with the right leader in charge, we could change the perception of what Westchester can be and what Westchester residents deserve. Thank you.
I think as soon as you start speaking, she'll start the timer box.
Okay. I didn't know if I was waiting for you to introduce if necessary. Hi, my name is Greg Riebel. I'm currently the village president of the village of Westchester. I am seeking re-election here in 2025. I began my career in Westchester in 1993. I'm a lifelong resident of Westchester. I was employed by the village for over close to 30 years, just under a few months. 30 years of employment, working in various capacities. I have absorbed so much of what Westchester is seeking to do. I've seen the rights, I've seen the wrongs of a number of boards since 1993. I have been actively involved in the village board meetings by attending since 2000. So I've been watching to see some of the methods that our board has taken to advance the town. Some of them have been positive, some of them have been stagnant. I've taken that in and have began that process 2 years ago by engaging with our businesses, looking to bring our businesses back. We've recently opened 5 new restaurants, seeking to open more. We are currently rebuilding our staff. We were in a position prior to my departure as an employee, short about 10% of our workforce. And we have began the process of rebuilding, not only through recruitment, but also retaining those employees. So I seek to continue moving Westchester forward in that way. Thank you very much. I think you're on mute. Sorry.
Sorry.
There you go.
The village bought 2305 and 2315 Enterprise Drive in September of 2020. They paid $2.9 million, and the two buildings were intended to house the new village hall, police, senior center in one building, and the public works in the other. The intention was to demolish the old village hall and to allow room for a large retail area at Mannheim and Roosevelt. This has not happened. A study has been done about the cost of moving Village Hall. And here's the first question. Do you think Village Hall should be moved? And if so, is it because the structure is not suitable for the needs or because there is an opportunity to add retail to the site? And can Village Hall and Public Works be in separate locations?
Let me start with yes, it would be great to find an opportune place to move to. The study that was done was commissioned and was something that was brought up in a candidate forum while running 2 years ago. I suggested that a study be done. It was done and determined that the needs of the village would not be met in those facilities. We began the process of selling those buildings, and unfortunately the sale did not complete. Yes, the village buildings and facilities we're currently in have been under cared for, per se, for the last about 10 years, with the intent to have moved off that property for over 10 years. And with that lack of work that's been not done on the buildings that we're currently in, it would be good to find a location that's suitable, that would fit our needs. They do not need to be in the same location, would not necessarily have to be, but certainly a study to determine the amount of space we need was done, and we have that information so that we can potentially locate some space to suit both needs.
Thank you. Gia?
The buildings on Enterprise Drive need to be marketed and sold. We need to get that burden off of our taxpayers. When it comes to the Westchester Village Hall and Public Works, I absolutely agree that they could be in different locations. However, we cannot move Village Hall until we financially can afford it. In the last 2 years, we've spent a lot of money at our current Village Hall. We've improved the parking lot, and we've also spent a lot of money with our new HVAC system. We cannot move Village Hall until our village is financially sound to do so.
Thank you. So the second part of this question, and Gia, you'll start with the answering first. What is currently being done with the Enterprise building, and what condition are they in, and are they being used at all? What do you think should be done with them, and on what timeline?
Currently, there is nothing being done with them. The sale that we wanted to go through with, it did not successfully go through. We need to market these properties. They are being held as storage for the furniture that was bought and also vehicles that are being kept in there. They're not in any condition to per se use for anything of the purpose as it's going right now. It would have to be probably regutted or to whatever a buyer wanted to do with it. But with a timeline, it needs to be marketed as of yesterday. It needs to be sold and get the taxpayers off the burden of paying that bill every month.
Thank you. Greg?
I agree that the buildings do need to be sold, and I certainly would love to find a buyer. The challenge that comes with some of the sale of that property, especially where it sits, it's located within a planned unit development that only can be used for offices initially. So anybody that is seeking to make that purchase, and anybody that has come out to review the property, would have to go through a planned unit development process, which would add up to 90 days or more to the due diligence period that we would offer them in the first place. So it is going to be a lengthy process. We are certainly looking to get rid of the buildings and find a better use for them. But what's most important is not necessarily the dollars we make, but to limit the impact to the neighboring community that's right there. It is very close to a residential area. It is the closest section of that planned unit development by a residential area. So to minimize the impact, we need to make sure that whomever is either marketing the property or even visiting the property to make a purchase has the best interest of Westchester in mind as we move that project forward.
Thank you. Greg, you're going to do this next one first. So it's still building on this whole question of the buildings that you have. How quickly will we see something built on the property that the village owns at Mannheim and Roosevelt?
There are a couple challenges, and those challenges just are based on dollars and cents being offered. The village was under contract. Let me rephrase the word contract. The village accepted a letter of intent, LOI, in August of 2022. Unfortunately, the developer has since left. But as we continue to look to find somebody to fill in the entire 3 acres that are vacant, they have a couple challenges of soil, which adds to the complexity of the project and a little bit of time. The other concern will be water management and water storage that will have to be required to be approved by Metropolitan Water Reclamation District before they could move forward. Additionally, some of the IDOT requirements that would be asked of anybody moving in that property, because it was built for 2 offices, there will be more required what's called curb cuts to allow the access in and out of the premises. And with that, may take a little bit of time. If you're asking for a specific timeline, I could see if somebody were to provide an offer, by the summer, you could have something by 2026.
Thank you. Gia?
Regarding Mannheim, I don't as well have a timeline for that. However, it's been 4 years since nothing has been going on with that property. We need to be better as a board and as a village to get that property sold. We need to introduce that property to investors, developers, realtors, and show it to those people that are in the real estate world. We have to not wait for the phone to ring and introduce it to people that could be interested in that property to develop a land and develop business that is revenue generating for our village.
Thank you. Gia, you'll start this next one. This one is about audits, forensic audits. In June of 2022, the village board hired Stone Turn Group and Ackerman to conduct a forensic audit. The audit was reportedly turned over to the Illinois State Police, who, according to the village attorney, asked that the report not be released while the police continue their investigation. So, Gia, the first question is, who has seen the forensic audit results, and what checks and balances should be put in place in any government so that the need for a forensic audit is prevented in the future?
As a village board trustee, I have not seen the report. I do not know who has seen the report. And as a village board trustee, I have requested to see the report multiple times during board meetings. And I've also contacted the state police myself. And I've also asked our current board members for it to be released. I am told on multiple occasions that we cannot release the report because it will compromise the investigation. What I think needs to happen forward is there needs to be more of a financial accountability. We need to develop a finance committee, and we need to do more checks and balances. We need to have more than one budget workshop a year when it comes to budgeting. We need to create a accountability from both finances and even board members when they ask questions on bills. Get the evidence that supports bills and understand what is actually being paid and what is coming in.
Thank you. Greg?
Yes. I have not seen the forensic audit. The forensic audit was part and parcel to an investigation that was done by Ackerman LLC. Ackerman LLC staff member that was conducting the investigation advised the board that he was handing that over to the Illinois State Police. As it relates to actually audits, the village's audits have been complete up till 2023. Those audits are posted online. Those are accessible to anybody. That was during the time frame 2022 in which the forensic audit would have been taking place, or I should say had been looking through. So any material evidence or anything that was related to malfeasance or financial issues would have been observed in the financial audits that were completed independently for the village. So I'm feel very comfortable and safe to say there's no financial issues related to the investigation, because the audits would have said otherwise, or they wouldn't have closed those audits. They are responsible and they sign off on our financial position. So I feel comfortable on the financial aspect of that.
Thank you. Greg, the next question will start with you. Westchester received an A2 Moody's credit rating, which indicates an upper medium grade and a low credit risk. Please explain the status of our pension funding and whether the budget is in deficit.
Sure. The budget. Now let's take the first one. Regarding pensions, over the last 2 years, the village of Westchester has decided to take some general fund tax levy money and move them into our pension fund. It comes from the same tax basing that is issued to county on an annual basis. We decided approximately $1 million over the last 2 years. Let me rephrase that. $1 million each for the last 2 years was taken from our general fund and placed into the pension funds to help improve those pension funds. That was a very a positive method to close the gap that was forming within the pensions. As it relates to the budget, the village did pass a deficit budget of $800,000 going into 2020, the 2025 budget year, which started May 1st of 2024. Since that time, though, the gap has been closing up. As we end this year, I feel very comfortable that the actual deficit will not be impactful to the village at all. The prior 2 years, our audits were just recently released, in which $3.4 million was added to our surplus. Our current fund reserve is above the 30% policy, and we continue to raise that as time goes on. Some of the budget allocations for the current year that led to an $800,000 deficit were positions that were not filled this year. One in particular is the finance director, which would go back to your previous question, how to close some of the gaps and have checks and balances. The village has not had a finance director in over 8 years. I think we're in a position in which we need a finance director to forecast our future and be that second set of eyes watching as things are spent.
Thank you. Gia?
Yes, that is correct. Last year we did, the board passed a budget of over $800,000 in the deficit. I did not vote yes on that agenda, on that budget. The reason why I did not vote yes on that agenda that was a budget deficit was because we did not hold any budget workshops. We are paying a lot of new payroll that we weren't 2 years ago. And what I mean by that is we do have a village manager form of government. but we now have an assistant village manager and an assistant to the assistant village manager. Those are two new payrolls that we never had before. When it comes to the budget and the payroll, and also refinancing the bonds, we are now paying an interest rate that is a lot higher than what we should have done with the pensions years ago. We made the decision to not pay the refinancing for years, and now we are catching up with it and having it on the burden of the taxpayers.
Thank you. Gia, next question. The Government Finance Officers Association say that a budget must excel as a policy document, financial plan, operations guide, and a communications tool. How will you involve the public more fully in the process of drafting and reviewing the budget before it reaches the village board meeting stage?
I will implement a finance committee that is compiled with finance professionals that are residents. That will allow us to evaluate vendors and costs, and it will also help us with a comprehensive plan to make Westchester a proactive form of government versus a reactive form of government.
Thank you. Greg?
We do host and discuss our budget openly. We prepare and place our budget in our lobby. We put it online and post it online prior to passage. We have, prior to the budget hearing, we do the same. Questions can be asked. We open it to the public. A lot of the items that are brought forward in our budget are from department heads, not even the village manager per se. Village manager takes a lot of items that are brought forward, discusses what's available financially. We currently have a very lean budget when it comes to a lot of our operational expenses. The ability for a police chief to request so many police cars, to update the fleet and make sure that it's in good condition is one of those things that comes forward. But by the time it gets to the board, those cars might not be there based on our current financial status. So both from the internal component of placing a budget together, along with having open meetings, I believe that a lot of that information is available to the public to make comment and weigh in on what we're buying.
Thank you. Greg, you'll answer this question first. As a bedroom community, Westchester has little industry to add to our tax base and little open space for future developments. In October of 2023, the board approved hiring an economic development consultant. On July 25th, 2024, the consultant presented her findings. As of today, no changes have been implemented. What are your plans for retaining current businesses and attracting new businesses to the community? And what role does a president play in retaining and attracting businesses?
Well, in terms of attracting businesses, I'm speaking to developers on a regular basis. I am speaking to landowners on a regular basis, seeking out properties to potentially redevelop. Those who come in with ideas, seek land or space or current facilities. There is no open space other than one area that may get developed in the future. But outside of that, a lot of the businesses seek connections to the owners of other properties. So working with the developer, who may or may not work with a business owner, current business owner, to see if they have any interest in sale of the property has occurred over the last couple of years. Unfortunately, our town is built in such a way that finding enough space for today's development is very difficult. I would say that the role of the president should be to continue those contacts, to continue those discussions. In the case of Westchester, we do have a TIF district. That TIF district is bringing in money currently. It's been in since 2020. And along Roosevelt Road, discussions have been had with other businesses to either look at investing in themselves, because a TIF does not just give money. A TIF works with the business to invest with them, whether it's for a facade improvement, parking lot improvement, to better enhance the area. Roosevelt Road is our start. That is the location where we've spent the most activity, but it doesn't go without saying that the rest of the community doesn't get looked at or discussed, or we don't direct them to other areas of town. So we've done that throughout the last 4 or 5 years, at least for myself.
Thank you. Gia?
I was not in support of the economic development consultant that was passed by the board. In order to bring new business in, we actually have to be very familiar with our demographics. We need to find out what businesses our residents want to support. We need to create a Westchester that outside residents are going to come in to visit, spend money in. And we need to have our residents stop going elsewhere to spend money at. We need to apply successful business practices. And what I mean by that is we need to create a more solid streamlining process when businesses are interested in coming to Westchester. We need to offer incentives and tax breaks to our current businesses and new businesses according to their tax structure. And when a business feels supported, it's going to want to spread the word of bringing more business in here. But it's more than just bringing businesses through business. It's understanding our demographics. It's understanding what residents want, what they need, and what kind of businesses they're going to support. Once we know that information, then we move into streamlining business processes, streamlining business practices, supporting them financially, and supporting them in any way that we could with marketing and also even branding.
Thank you. Gia, you'll set this next question first. The last referendum measure designed to raise funds for infrastructure improvements passed in 2020 in the amount of $42 million. Those funds will be spent at the end of 2025-2026 fiscal year. The estimate for maintaining roads, replacing old water lines, and removing lead lines is approximately $140 million. Do you feel the current budget for the maintenance of infrastructure is sufficient? And if not, what are the additional needs?
I do not feel that the current budget is enough money for that, but we need to get in touch with our local, state, and federal officials to help Westchester with funding. We need to stop putting the taxpayers with this burden. We need to stop putting this bill on their dime for making up for everything that we haven't done in years, and now giving them the cost of making up for what we haven't done in a while.
Thank you. Greg?
Yes, I know that our infrastructure, and it's something I follow and have followed for years, the village neglected those, the underground components of what needed to be done over close to 50 years now. A lot of that was because former administrations felt that the above ground, the look, let's redo a road, but not the underground infrastructure, whether it was sewer and or water. A lot of that's been done over the last about 15 years. Since 2010, a new look was taken at it, specifically due to the flooding issues that occurred in 2010 and 2013. And the sewer lining project has completed a majority of our community. I couldn't give you a percentage, but a majority of our community has either had new lines put in or lining done. How we're going to pay for it is not going to be easy. It's not going to be something that I can give you an answer for. That's where a finance director is going to provide us with insight into our options for bonding, our options for loans, our options for low interest and or loan forgiveness. The community of Westchester has a median income shown publicly as close to $100,000. where our neighboring communities have $65,000, they are eligible for low interest and sometimes loan forgiveness for infrastructure replacement. We're going to have to dig down and have somebody put together some numbers on what it's going to cost per year, how we're going to get there per year, how we're going to maintain not only the roads but the underground infrastructure and replace what's necessary. I don't have that answer, but certainly want to work with the people that can get us that answer.
Thank you. Gia?
I think I answered that question already.
Yep. Yes, you did. Want to do it again? No. Okay, the next question is, so do you agree that replacing all lead lines, including those from the water main to the individual homes, is a cost that could or should be shared?
Is that starting with me?
Yes. Sorry.
Okay. The cost, we had advised as a board to cover the cost of lead line replacement for the service lines, which was a decision made by the board in large part, at least in my eyes, was because not only can the village get a better cost to have that done, but it allowed us to make sure they got done when they were needed to be done, especially if there was replacements in the area on water main. It allowed us to cut some of the time away from having to burden a resident at the time of sale of the house, or by placing that cost on the sale of a house, which could have occurred had we gone a different direction. I do believe that we're going to have to figure out specifically how we're going to accomplish this in the time frame that was provided. It is a mandate by the federal government, and I have spoken on 2 trips to Springfield with several of our legislators on not only how can we become more eligible, and how can the money be distributed more equitably to communities like ours. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, having the high median income places us at a disadvantage for receiving money from the state and the federal government in many cases. But I have spoken to them. We have a lobbyist who is working with the Illinois EPA, trying to determine any methods to include us in receiving funds that we don't normally receive, because it's a federal mandate. So hopefully those discussions are ongoing, and I'll be back in Springfield in April to ask the same questions.
Thank you. Gia?
As much as I think that it's a shared responsibility, the taxpayers of Westchester should not have been given a massive increase at one time. It should have been done in increments. And this was another example of how the taxpayers of Westchester are making up for the financial irresponsibility that they have done and they've been used to for years. Yes, it is a shared expense. However, it needed to be done in increments and not a massive rate at one time. And when it comes to funding, we most definitely have to fight for funding as much as we can in Springfield and with our state and federal officials. We need to fight for funding for Westchester.
Thank you. Gia, you'll start this next question. What strategies would you use to find common ground when board members strongly disagree on an issue?
So being village president and the leader, it's super important to build your board up for the betterment of our village. So currently we have a board that's completely divided, and we have talents that are being wasted because there is no communication. We truly need to use our board members for the strengths that they have. It's a wonderful way of working together by learning about one another. And we could build a better board with better communication, with effective communication, with open and honest communication. It's with respect and talking with each other, using for what we have, the strengths that we have. Each of our board members can be active with committees, can be active with residents, report back to the board, and none of that happens. There are events that take place that board members find out about on Facebook. And there's very limited communication with our board. And as a village president, that's one of the jobs, is to unify the board. You're not always going to agree, and that's healthy. But you need to learn how to work together by respectful conversation and open communication.
Thank you. Greg?
Would you be able to ask the question again, please, the way you
Sure.
asked it?
What strategies would you use to find common ground when board members strongly disagree on an issue?
Sure. I think the biggest component of this is bringing forward more information on the topic. A lot of times, I can see this occur on several occasions, that the topic is a little bit confusing. It might be out of the scope of a board member and not be able to understand where the discussion is going. So whether or not it's the responsibility of the department head to bring forward a newer method of identifying the problem and placing more detail in that could provide better information for a board member to make its decision.
Thank you. Greg, you'll start this next question first.
Yes.
The Village of Westchester joined 162 other communities in adopting the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus Greenest Region Contract, GRC. The GRC has 49 goals in 10 sustainability categories: climate, economic development, energy, land, leadership, mobility, municipal operations, sustainable communities, water and waste and recycling. Okay, I'm not sure how any of that can get done, but what are 3 charges you would give to the GROW Commission to keep Westchester on a path to sustainability?
So I know that the GROW Commission has worked in partnership with our other little subcommittee of sorts. It's called C4. It's a cross climate community initiative. Broadview and a lot of our neighbors are involved with that organization. So what happens is they communicate quite a bit on things such as community solar. I know that's one of the things that was discussed with some of our neighbors to utilize some of our larger buildings here in town, such as a Jewel, and use their above roof space for shared solar. That would be an initiative. I don't know that I necessarily would task them. I would seek them to come back to us with information that would, be suitable for the board to accept, financially acceptable, number one, but is it something that we could accomplish? I wouldn't want them to task themselves with something that we couldn't accomplish or couldn't either sustain both financially or to get the buy-in from the public on. But I certainly know in visiting their meetings, they're a very passionate group of people. They do sit and discuss things in great detail. And when they come and have an idea, it certainly is charged with a lot of energy. So I would love for them to review what options are available that the village could work with.
Thank you. Gia?
I definitely support energy efficient initiatives. Solar is definitely one option. I know that you said 3. Sustainable building practices, but also opening it up to the vehicles. So the vehicles in our village, making them more energy efficient. So those are definitely 3 ideas that I would introduce for being sustainable and energy efficient.
Thank you. Gia, you'll start this next question first. The last comprehensive plan was in 2014, when community members gather to outline the vision of what a community desires to become, as well as the necessary steps it will take to make that vision a reality. The Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning recommends a comprehensive plan to be updated every 5 to 10 years. Is it time for a new comprehensive plan? And what is your timeline for creating a new one?
It most definitely is time for a new comprehensive plan. Timeline would definitely evolve. And what I mean by that, sooner rather than later. And sooner rather than later, meaning what type of information can we gather from our residents? With a comprehensive plan, we could actually start planning with taking surveys, hosting a town hall, having an open door policy. All of that is just the start of our comprehensive plan. But it's steps achieving that plan and by opening the doors of communication.
Thank you. Greg?
Yes, we did two studies very close in time frame about the 2014 area, both from the metropolitan area and planning, as well as UIC did a study for us as well. The village has been seeking out funds, and CMAP actually providing some funds to get this project done. It's been something in the works for a short period of time, not long, but we have been discussing it to have a new comprehensive plan done. I think one of the most important parts of the comprehensive plan is not only to look at our current one, but to take our current one a little bit and say, you know, we've got to prepare ourselves financially for some of those steps that need to be taken in there. If I recall, some of the earlier steps, you know, identify that we don't have land area to build upon, and there's very little area to do stuff with, and would require some capital investment from the village. If that's the case still, which I would assume it would be, we should start preparing ourselves in that way. Take ourselves through the old comprehensive plan in great detail, determine ourselves, you know, how many millions of dollars we're going to need to set aside for property acquisitions, and you know, to get that plan ready. A comprehensive plan is only as good as how you implement it. Not you know, the building of it is important, but of course, implementation is much greater of much greater importance.
Thank you. And in building on that, how will you communicate the status of the achievements of a comprehensive plan to residents?
For me?
Yes, I'm sorry, Greg. Yes.
Oh, no problem. Just double checking. And would you mean the status? Let me just clarify there. The status of having a comprehensive plan done and prepared, or the implementation of it?
Well, it's not only done, but then once it's implemented, how do you communicate? How do you communicate both of those parts to your community? The planning of it and then the achievement of it.
Sure. The planning of it would be open meetings. There would be several sessions, most likely outside of Village Hall. We'd need a larger facility. In the past, we'd used a local church. We used a school at one point. I was present for those presentations and discussion focus groups. During those times, you know, we had about 50 or so people come out each of those for each of those studies. We would let everybody know when they're happening, prepare ahead of time. Obviously, CMAP would be working directly with us to provide us with a timeline and give us some marketing materials to get it out to the public. We would work with our local taxing bodies, whether it be the school or the library potentially for location. And then as we implement, we would have to determine our focus area, because if you look at our current comprehensive plan, there are focus areas. It is not a broad, grand scale Westchester. It is focus areas that would need to be attacked one by one. Initially, you know, one area of concern that sticks out in my mind was Cermak and Manheim, where our jewel is, and a redevelopment of that entire area was recommended and suggested based on the current layout. It was laid out for a different time, and you know, the recommendation was an $11 million project to revitalize that entire area. Now, we don't have that kind of money, so we're going to have to you know, start preparing ourselves to implement the plan, and we would work with the public as we began that process to determine how we could do it.
Thank you. Gia?
We would keep our residents involved every step of the way. So we would want them to be involved at the very beginning. We would want them involved throughout the process, and then we would want them involved when the comprehensive plan is implemented. How it's going to be communicated is whether it's email, newspaper, regular mail, but they need to be notified as well. So once notified, we will keep them involved and participated, like I said, through the planning and through the implementation of it.
Thank you. Gia, you'll start this next question first. According to CMAP, the median age in Westchester is 51.7 years, compared to 37.5 years in Cook County. How will you ascertain senior needs in Westchester? What amount is assigned for senior programs in the village budget now?
Regarding seniors, we definitely need to implement a real snow program. We need to implement transportation and senior ride, transportation in a senior ride program. And we need to continue valuable resource lunch and learns. We need to put more value in our seniors. We have a thriving senior community, and they need to have more responsible attention put towards them.
Thank you. Greg?
I believe the village has allocated a few dollars, and I hate to use that term few, but we allocated funds available for senior projects. Some discussion was over the snow program, and I would love to have a snow program that would just be fair and equitable to everybody and not be financially burdensome. But unfortunately, some of that discussion leads to high cost to handle a program such as that. I certainly would love to sit down. I've talked with on a regular basis with our township supervisor, asking what other programs are being requested there. In some cases, their extension of their ride program that they have is being requested. Maybe there's some partnerships that we could do with our township in some of the services they offer to determine how we can better utilize our funds as opposed to starting our own service that could certainly be costly. I don't know, was there another part of that question? Forgive me. You wanted to know what we were going to do and how much money we allocated, correct?
Yeah, it's just how will you ascertain the needs, and then
yes.
What you do assign.
Yes, so a lot of that determining the needs would come from the public. What do they need as a whole? Having a program for seniors comes in a variety of ways, whether it's through finding out that the need is from them, or finding out from our township. What needs are being asked for there. A majority of senior programs that are available in the township are extremely utilized by Village of Westchester residents. So I'm very proud that we've gotten the word out and message out to be able to utilize that, because those are tax dollars of theirs as well.
Thank you. Greg, this next question starts with you.
Yes.
What is the responsibility of a commission to the board, and are commissions included in the budgeting process?
Commissions such as we have we have a police and fire commission. I don't know. We don't have commissions per se.
Do you have committee work or committee, citizens committee, and those kind of groups that give you feedback on certain topics?
We have the sustainability committee and things like that. We have we attempted for some time to do a citizens advisory board. I had put out for about 8 months a request to garner interest in that, have people participate in a citizens advisory board to determine the needs of the town. Unfortunately, we received very little response on that. Other outreach from the community, the environmental committee is the other committee that really is working strong.
Okay, thank you. Gia?
Regarding committees, we most definitely need a citizens advisory board that was dissolved. There were active members on it, but the citizens advisory board was dissolved. We definitely need a senior committee. We need a finance committee. And we do have a Thriving Grow Committee. And we have an Economic Development Committee. The Economic Development Committee is doing well, but it needs to be better. And all of that's going to come with time, residents, and business input. And I feel the same way with all of the committees. With committees and board members, I feel that every board member should be assigned to the different committees, and it should almost be a rotating responsibility. And then with that rotating responsibility, that liaison could then report back to the board. But we absolutely need more resident involvement with our committees, working with our board members.
Thank you. Jill, you'll get this next question first. How does Westchester interact with the other taxing bodies within your borders? And if so, how can it be improved? And what is the what do you think is the value of interacting with your other taxing bodies within your borders?
Interacting with our taxing bodies is definitely a positive because we support each other. We're in the same township, and supporting the needs of other towns with Westchester is very important. We build bridges, and that's important in government. It's also important to maintain what and keep in mind what our residents need and want. But building bridges with our community neighbors is vital with community government. It helps, it does help get things done. But like I said, it's also important to keep in mind what our residents need and want as well.
Thank you. Greg?
Yes, to start, I believe that the collaboration that I've had with our neighboring mayors, mostly in Proviso, admittedly. I meet with them on a monthly basis. We get to share ideas, concepts, thoughts of what one town may be considering doing, whether it's offering a program or otherwise. We also collaborate, and this started prior to me being in office, but we collaborate with Hillside. We share our dispatch services. Hillside took those on. It was something that was done on a private level at one point. We were paying approximately $420,000 a year, and Hillside was able to save us about $120,000 a year by taking our services on there. We also share in the resources of their information technology director. We pay a portion of his salary, don't have the burden of insurance or otherwise at this point. So we were able to utilize his services in-house. I'm working with another two mayors on the possibility of shared resources with our fire departments. The equipment has become extremely expensive, and for each community to have an expensive piece of equipment that isn't shared as much or could be utilized a little bit differently, I would love to have that come to fruition. So communicating with the neighboring mayors and elected officials in all of those communities has been an extreme benefit, not only financially, but they've provided some great advice.
Thank you. Greg, you'll start this next one. What does Westchester Village government currently do well, and what are the biggest areas of opportunity?
The village, I believe, currently has recently built up its team again. We spoke about this a little bit earlier. We have a village manager and assistant village manager. The assistant village manager took on the role of HR. So I believe that the approval of that, our board was forward thinking in putting that together and being able to see that was needed, and that was something that was missing. I think the opportunity in Westchester is hopefully some more development. It's been something that's been stagnant since the early 2000s. Being able to redevelop an area is something that takes a lot of money, a lot of time, and finding the right person who is willing to make that investment. That's something we have to work on. But I think that's our greatest opportunity. Westchester runs a lean budget, as mentioned before, as well. And with that, we have a lot of great services for the residents currently. And I think that in the future we would continue to expand upon those if possible, and as budget allows. But I think we have a wonderful community that each person I speak to, specifically who have moved in the last 5 years, just love living in Westchester. And I think that's the greatest asset, is when a resident says they love living here.
Thank you. Gia?
Like I mentioned in my opening statement, Westchester is a gem that just needs to be polished. Westchester is a wonderful community, and the residents even make it a better place. We are filled with opportunity when it comes to development. And what I mean by that is we are in a prime location for restaurants, for revenue generating businesses. We need to build Westchester to be a place where we want people to move to, raise their families in, and not want to leave. But we also want Westchester to become the place where they come to eat instead of us having to go somewhere else. What we need to stop doing in Westchester is wasting time. We're wasting time and we're wasting money, and we need to get things done in a more efficient manner.
Thank you. I think this will be our last question for the evening. Gia, you'll start. How does a trustee and president's role differ on a village board? Gia, you'll start this one.
So the village president is the voice of the people and the face of the village. The village president has a very important role of setting the tone and the agenda for their board. The village president has a very important role of unifying the board in a way that is respectful with open communication. We will never agree on anything, and that's what's healthy. Whereas a trustee it's almost like a direct bloodline of a resident with the board. Whereas the village president is also being present and engaging with the community, but the trustees are working with residents hand in hand and then reporting back to the board with the village president. But that's, and we're all working with the the village manager and along with village staff.
Thank you. Greg?
Yes, I think that the village of Westchester, specifically being a manager form of government, is run by the village manager. The village trustees and the village board, the village president and the village board are decision makers on policy. We set the policy and tell staff how to act upon it. I think there's a misunderstanding sometimes from the public specifically that I have some authority, which I don't. That I would have the ability to just wave a magic wand to either have something approved, get something done and accomplished. I certainly want to get those things done. I want to bring those things forward. But unfortunately, I am a single vote. Just clearly stated, I'm a single vote. I am the moderator of meetings. And yes, I appreciate the fact that the trustee said I'm the face of the village, and I am humbled to be that. However, I am just one vote in a deciding vote, for that matter, on certain items. So I think that as we move forward, we're all working together for the similar goal of bettering Westchester.
Thank you. Greg, you'll start with the closing statement of 1 minute.
Well, thank you very much. And first, I want to thank the League of Women Voters of Proviso for setting this up. I couldn't thank you enough. So once again, I am running for village president, re-election this time here in 2025. I was fortunate enough in 2023 to have been selected as a write-in candidate where there were 5 candidates. In this case, we have 1 candidate that I'm running against. I certainly hope that the public gets to see this, and I hope you promote this video as much as possible to get everybody to see what we both offer.
Thank you. Gia?
Leadership is not a position or a title. It's action and an example. Words matter and your voice matters, and your voice is very important to me. And that is why I'm dedicated to work necessary to earn your trust and your support on April 1st. I am Gia Marie Benline, and I am prepared and ready to be your next village president. Thank you.
Well, thank you both for your participation. Public service is the bedrock of democracy, and we thank you, both of you, for your time tonight and for choosing to run for local office, because it's not an easy thing. Local elections are important, and we hope that you, everybody that watches this, remembers to vote and to share this information and this video with their neighbors and their friends, so that they can make some informed decisions on April 1st. Early voting does start on March 17th. So those of you that want to get done early, hopefully you can watch this video and share it with your neighbors so you can make an informed decision. Thank you both again, and thanks to the Westchester Library for putting this on.